Hi everyone, so I thought I'd film a review for this channel, my first review, and that will be of the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, as I just finished the trilogy and I have a lot to say about them because they were so good. So let's get into it. So the first book I'm going to start with has to obviously be Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is book one of the series. And when I began reading this entire series, really, I knew that I was going to like it, although I was a bit apprehensive because I read somewhere that this was like young adulty. So I was a bit like, oh, I didn't know if it would be a bit too young for me, because sometimes I find young adult just isn't rich enough for me as a reader, especially like in terms of the writing style. But whenever people ask me about this book, I always describe the whole series, in fact, as being like a childhood bedtime story for adults, because it just reads in such a whimsical and imaginative way. The writing is so easy, but I don't want you to mistake that as it being simple, but it's so easy to understand and it really creates vivid images in your head. And for the first book, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't read anything to do with the plot other than I knew that there was a girl called Evangeline and a guy called Jax. That was as much as I knew. I'd seen some TikTok character art, and that was all I had in my head about it. So I really went into this with like a really open mind, and the story, I don't know what I expected, but it was a little bit different, I guess, to what I expected. And the journey for Evangeline was very different to what I had in my head. Because it was very about, so it opens with Evangeline learning the love of her life is about to marry another person, and it opens with that and her trying to change that fact. So that's just come from the back of the book, by the way, I haven't spoiled it. But I found that even though I kind of knew this was going to have that romance element into it, I didn't expect it to be so like love and curse based and things like that, like a love at first sight thing. Well, isn't love at first sight, but it has that magical vibe, I guess, and I didn't expect that from it. I expected it to be a bit more less about romance, I guess, even though it's called Once Upon a Broken Heart. I don't know. But I was really pleasantly surprised by how serious it took love, but also the quest and the journey through the book as well. The characters were really great in it. I loved seeing Evangeline's like world and everything, and I just thought it was just such a good read. I mean, I sped through it so quick. I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. And then for the second book, this is when things really got interesting. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but you kind of know that a love story is going to happen between some characters, so you're waiting for that to happen. And I love the idea of like the lore in these books. Across all of the books, there's so much lore with the world, and there's a family in the world. I don't want to speak too much about it again because of spoilers, but there was a family in the world, and there's a lot of lore about the family, and it is all about curses, and all of the titles kind of give that away, and it's all about like these old stories that have been passed on and stories that have been told in the wrong way. But that element of it, I think, has just been done so well, and especially in this book, because you see things come to life a bit more, rather than, whereas the first one is kind of, you get like peasant girl to princess vibes, and it's all very lovely. This one is just really gripping, and I loved it so much. It was so good. Yeah, just I thought that the magic system, there could maybe be a bit more than the magic system and the fates themselves, because I feel like I didn't go in depth enough about the fates, who you'll meet in these books if you read them. But I feel like it could have been a bit more described, a bit more, I guess. Not that it wasn't described enough, but I just would have liked to know a bit more, because there's so much on the curses, like the curse of the archer and the fox, like, and stuff like that, and I found that so interesting, and how that like led through the whole book, especially even like the the cover design, sorry, it really had that running through it. I just wish that like the fates and other aspects had a bit more depth on them, and it might be because I'm just not understanding, because I haven't read Caraval and things like that, which I've heard comes before, so it could just be where I haven't read everything in order, possibly. But I mean, you can't go wrong. Again, same as the first book, easy to read, really enjoyable to read. I read it really quick. I think there's 400 pages in this one in my copy, maybe the same in this one. The third book, this one here, had slightly less pages, and I was surprised when I got to the end. I was like, oh, because it ended almost, not too quickly, but it ended quickly, and I was like, oh damn it, I thought there was more to it. But that being said, it wasn't an unsatisfying ending. I just feel like it's possibly been left open for more. So we'll see what happens with that. So the second book I would rate 4 stars. I rated 4 stars as well. And the third book I rated 4 stars. The story just progresses so well. The ending of the second book had me in a chokehold, and I had to read this immediately. And I read this in 2 sittings because I was like, I need to devour it instantly. Everything about it was just so good. The pace of her books are so good. Like when something happens and you're like, oh damn it, I want that to get solved, things get solved relatively quickly, which I love. And the chapters are quite short and sweet, which I loved. This one switches up point of view a bit more than the others do, which I quite enjoyed, because you kind of see into the villain's mind, which I really enjoyed as a reader. And also as a writer, because it's nice to know that there's a villain doing things that they obviously every villain thinks they're doing it for the right reasons, but it's a villain who's doing things not necessarily just for revenge. Like the villain's doing stuff because they believe it's the right thing to do, and I found that really interesting, especially in this book where you see the villain's character arc. I don't want to spoil it, but like how it changes across the story. When you get into this book, you go, wow, this person's really twisted, and you just don't expect it from the beginning. And I think Stephanie Garber has such good characters for that. I mean, her characters are so well fleshed out. Even the side characters are really well developed. Like they all give you like preconceived ideas about stories you might have heard about them, or like what the other characters say. Yet when you meet them in the books, they're just so unexpected. They're just a breath of fresh air. I really can't fault her characters at all in this series. This book, I think, I don't have a problem with it at all, but like I mentioned before, the ending of it was a little bit abrupt. It got to the end and I was like, oh, we're at the end. And then I went and looked at the epilogue and was like, oh, I'm one of those readers that wants to see the characters happy. I want to see them happy. I want to see them together. I want to see the fluff afterwards. I want to see the niceness. I want to see the domesticity. And because it didn't have that in this book, I was a bit like, oh. Although I'm pretty sure that there might be like a novella coming or something that I saw on Goodreads. I might be wrong. In which case, I don't know what that's about either. But if that could be about the fluff, that would be really nice. Or if there was like a bonus chapter or something online that they could shove in the end, because I would really enjoy a little bit more where the characters are just happy. Because I feel like this happens in all books. You stay with these characters for so long, you see all their struggles, you see them like go for all the fights, and then they get to the end and it's the end of the book. And I don't want it to just be the end. I want to see them happy. I want to see them get the gain out of and get the reward out of all their struggle. So that is my only criticism for this book in particular, is that just be prepared if you haven't read it before. It ends quite quickly. And the ending was great. I mean, there were a couple of times, I don't know if it's because they might be a young adult series, but there were a couple of times where moments in the book were quite predictable. There were some moments that weren't predictable, but some of the bigger plot moments felt like I could have seen them come in, especially in the end of book. Not so much the first two, and there's a lot of things that surprised me in these, but in the last book, I was like, oh, I kind of guessed that was going to happen. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, we do like a satisfying ending, and I like being, like, you know, being told I'm right and everything like that. But I was a bit like, oh, I hope she'd whip something out that was a bit different. Oh, another thing that I found with this series. So I would give it a 4 stars across the board. I am someone who finds it really hard to give out 5 stars. I only give out 5 stars on the rare occasion a book has to be amazing. And because I'm a reader and a writer, and I've got like the 2 degrees in writing as well, I find it really hard to just like pinpoint a 5-star on something. So the reason why this series didn't get 5 stars for me is just because there was a couple of moments where what happened in the books, like the plot and the narrative, it felt like it was like things that were just placed in it that were convenient to move the plot onwards. So something would happen and it would be like, oh, and then this happened and that got fixed, and you're like, oh, brilliant, okay, so then that wasn't a problem for long. Or there were things that were problems that I was like, you just made that a problem to carry on writing. So maybe that could have been done more seamlessly. I don't know. I mean, did it stop me from enjoying them? No, I absolutely love them. I'll recommend them to anyone. I think they're better for those of you who are either romance readers trying to get into fantasy, or some of the young adult readers, of course, or readers who don't like too heavier content or fantasy. I mean, it has got some like darker, slightly darker elements, but compared to other books, they're not that bad. They're just really whimsical and really hopeful, and the third person narration of the entire series just makes it feel like you're having a bedtime story told to you, and that narrative voice that she uses is just so good. And yeah, Stephanie Garber, I was really, really impressed with this series because of the hype on TikTok and on Book Talk and everything like that. I thought, oh god, I don't know if I'm going to love them, but I do. I am obsessed with them. And I read her novel Alchemy of Secrets before, and that was good, but I think that might have only been a 3.5 star rating from me. If I gave it a 4, it's not a 4, because compared to this is amazing. It's just a nice, compact, quick series. If you're looking for something that you know you're going to enjoy, you're going to whip through, it's great. Because I have got some series here on my shelves that I need to read, or some that I have read. But this is probably, I mean, I'm an ACOTAR diehard fan. This was easier to read than ACOTAR. And ACOTAR is easy, but this was just so quick, so seamless, such a great story. I would recommend it to anyone. So thank you so much for watching my first review on this channel. I hope you liked it. I'll be posting a lot more content like this soon. Hopefully I can make my videos a bit longer. I'm getting used to, I'm like making the jump from like doing reels and stuff and TikTok videos, which are a lot shorter, to YouTube videos. So it's like managing the time and what I'm going to say in that time frame. But thank you so much for watching, and please bear with me while I figure it all out, because I'm very new to this. Yeah, thank you for watching, and give me a little like and subscribe if you can, and I'll be back with some more bookish content soon if you like that sort of thing. Thank you, bye.